All right, so this is Group 10's final project. We made a website kind of talking about the Hawaiian Islands as a whole and kind of how tourists and visitors can help protect them and like some sustainable activities that they can do. So the first section is history. Oh, it's loaded. Okay, so history of the Hawaiian Islands, we just kind of went over how Hawaii is one of like the most isolated island chains in the entire world. We added this little like website embed because then you can type in other places around the world to kind of like make it more interactive and have people see for themselves just how isolated the islands really are. And then the next section talked about Polynesian settlement and how they impacted the islands and how they had more sustainable practices and like respected the land more. And then these are canoe plants that they brought with them, and you can like hover over them to see the names. And at the bottom here, yeah. Then the next section is like colonization and tourism, some more effects now and how Europeans have impacted the islands and how it's been much less sustainable than the Polynesian settlers. And then some invasive species and native species are here. So again, you can hover over it and see which ones are supposed to be here and which ones aren't. And then at the end, there's just some links. So on the left, the ones we used for the sources for this, and then on the right, some just additional resources people can look through.
And then I wrote a section about the beaches in Hawaii and how to conserve the shoreline. So the beaches is a very popular destination for tourists. Since they are very beautiful, a lot of people come to enjoy these places. However, they are also home to a lot of native and endemic species. Therefore, it's important to be educated and respectful. So I wrote about how the beaches are important habitats, and then I had 3 examples. Here you have the Hawaiian monk seal, which is an endemic species who depend on the beaches for birth and rest and for food. And the green turtle, which is native to Hawaii, which also depend on the beaches for their hatching and food and like that. And then I wrote about coral reefs, which is an ecosystem that you find along the shoreline in Hawaii, which is an extremely vulnerable ecosystem and very valuable ecosystem. Then I wrote a section about what the challenges are, such as overpopulation, littering, disturbance, pollution, etc., and how to contribute. And then I linked some sites that you can read more about, which are organizations that volunteer in keeping the beaches clean and preserving the wildlife, such as these websites. My source.
All right, so for the hiking section, I chose to focus on the Kuliolo Ridge Trail, which is partnered with the Aloha Tree Alliance and is a beautiful hike used to have restore ecological preservation of endemic species. And so there's many different ways you can get involved. You can go on hikes, you can donate, or you can even volunteer to help plant different restoration sites. And so different ways you can get involved in Hawaii. And then here you can see there's over 20 different sites like throughout the hike. And then those are just a few examples of it. And then here is the way you can get involved through the Aloha Tree Alliance. They have different work days every month. And then those are just more examples of the trail. And then The best way to conserve trails is just to stay on the trail and just be as respectful as you can to the native land. And then for the next section, there are different botanical gardens that you can visit in Hawaii, each of which is a beautiful way to get educated on endemic species, see different plants from around the world, and just support conservation of species in Hawaii. So the Foster Botanical Garden is very close to us here in Honolulu, the Cocoa Crater out on the east side, lots of different ecosystem plants you can see there, and all of them range in different sizes and different habitats. And yeah, more examples. And then the best way to respect the garden is to just respect the local traditions and to follow the rules of those places.
So this next section, I chose to write about what you can do to help keep Hawaii green. So one thing you can do is changing your sunscreen, making sure that your sunscreen doesn't have any harmful ingredients that can harm the reefs and our marine lives. You can also cut the plastics. So using reusable bags, utensils, water bottles, that kind of thing can help reduce the amount of litter that ends up in our ocean. You can choose local and shop local businesses and support local farms. You can take a bike instead of driving and be respectful of the native plants and animals and don't disturb them. And on the bottom are just some volunteer opportunities that you can partake in and get involved, get hands-on experience. There's you can hover over them and check out different things ranging from trail restoration to invasive algae removal. And yeah, thank you.